Hi everyone. Welcome to this month's Ask Me Anything session where I help to answer all your questions about planning a trip to Japan, no matter how big or how small. We're kind of in strange times right now, and I know many of you will have had your trips to Japan cancelled, or you might have to reschedule until later in the year or maybe next year. But I'm sure that must have been terribly disappointing for you. So, what I want to do is use these kind of sessions to help you plan an even better trip for when you do get to go, and give you some suggestions on how to make the best of your precious holiday time. So we've got lots of different topics to get through today. Had some really great questions. For example, we're going to talk about language barriers and getting around, what to do if you have dietary restrictions, recommendations for martial arts experiences, some of my top tips to do Tokyo on a budget. Also some ideas for ceramics or pottery experiences you can do, which I was asked about. And then finally, I was asked by someone to give some recommendations for ryokan, which are in really nice rural settings. So I've got a few tips for that as well, based on places that I've been to personally. But before we get started, just to kind of give you a little introduction in case you don't know who I am. So my name's Tanya, and I founded ryokogo.com, which is a travel blog that I started in 2016 whilst I was living in Japan. And I basically just started it to kind of document my travels around the country. I'm a full-time professional travel writer, and I've lived on and off in Japan since 2015. The first time I moved out there was 2015, and I was there for more than 3 years, and I lived in the Japanese countryside for 2 years, and I also lived and worked in Tokyo. And now I kind of split my time between UK and Japan, so I was just out in Tokyo for a few months at the end of last year as well, and hopefully get to go back soon. I write for Culture Trip, so if you ever want to check out any of my articles on the Culture Trip website, I've written a lot specifically about Hiroshima and Kobe. I've also written for the Japanese Tourism Board, and I used to work in tourism for like 15 years before I became a full-time writer, and I studied Japanese language and culture at university, so I know lots and lots about Japan. And one of my favorite things to do when I'm in Tokyo is go around to lots of different cafes and things. And I'm also a huge cat fan. So now you pretty much know everything about me. We can get started. Okay, so a few kind of quick questions to get going. So one of the first things I was asked was how tricky is the language barrier? And I have to say, it can be a little bit tricky depending on where you go. But if you are just kind of sticking to the main touristy areas, so you're going to places like Tokyo or Osaka, Kyoto, all those kind of tourist sites, then language isn't really an issue at all. There's plenty of signage in English, there's plenty of English information around, and usually they'll have staff at those places that speak English as well. The only difficulty really lies if you get like really off the beaten track, so like the deep countryside where they won't have English announcements on trains, for example, and it's kind of unlikely you'll find many English speakers. But even in that case, you can still survive. It's not impossible. So you just have to be a bit more creative in your ways of communication. So lots of gestures and things. But generally, in those kind of countryside areas, people are really friendly, and they'll do whatever they can to help you out. If you are really worried about the communication issue before going to Japan, I would recommend just trying to learn a few key phrases that will serve you well wherever you go. So there's, just a few general phrases you could learn. Learning to kind of say thank you and like greetings are always good. Greetings are really important in Japanese. And yeah, I mean, you could learn a few phrases for restaurants and things. But generally speaking, you if you're just visiting for like a couple of weeks, yeah, then don't worry about it. It's not really a big issue. What happens if I get lost? Okay, so yeah, I mean, I still get lost all the time when I go to Japan, and I've lived there for a long time, so it's not impossible to get lost. Especially if you're going to places like Shinjuku Station, which is kind of my nightmare, really. There's more than 200 exits on that one station, so I always get lost around there. I hate going there. I never know where I'm going. I never know which exit I need to take to get to where I need to go. So, yeah, you probably will get lost, but don't worry about it. Again, I would recommend using Google Maps. That has saved me so many times. So, make sure you've got access to Wi-Fi. You can rent one of those pocket Wi-Fi routers, or you can get a special SIM card for your phone. But if you have access to Wi-Fi, then Google Maps will usually get you wherever you need to go. It has saved my life many, many times whilst in Japan. And also the other app that I swear by is Hyperdia, which is really good for getting around with trains. So you can just put in like your starting point and where you want to go, and it will tell you what the best route is and which trains to take. So that's just a free app you can download as well, which I recommend using. Is public transport easy to navigate? Yes, it is easy because in all of the major cities, everything is written in Japanese and English, and all the announcements on board trains and subways and most of the buses are also in English as well. So if you're in Tokyo and you're taking the train, then it's very, very easy. Everything will be announced in English, and you can always ask some staff as well if you get stuck. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so one of the questions I had was about food, which is my favourite topic. I'm a huge foodie, but also a pescatarian. I know fish will be widely available, but is it hard to easily find food when having such a restricted diet? I would say if you don't eat meat, but you eat seafood, that's probably one of the easiest challenges to have in Japan, because seafood is like a staple food item in the Japanese diet, and if you don't eat seafood, then it's probably more of an issue. For example, I don't really eat seafood at all, but I managed to live in Japan for more than 3 years with no problems. Because seafood in some form or another is in most dishes. So if you do eat fish but not meat, then you'll be absolutely fine. You'll be able to find something in most restaurants. The only place you might have trouble is if you go to like a yakiniku restaurant, which is like a barbecue style restaurant where you cook all the meat on the grill at the table. They don't always have a lot of seafood, but apart from that, you'll be able to eat pretty much everywhere, no problems. Other kind of issues when it comes to diet that you may struggle with. So things like vegan and halal friendly menus are less common, but that's not to say it's impossible. There are more and more restaurants catering to those dietary requirements that are opening up, especially in the big cities. So if you do a little bit of research beforehand, if you have got a particularly strict dietary requirements, then you should still be able to find places to eat. But yeah, if you're going out into the countryside, then it may be a little bit more of a struggle. Yeah, so most Japanese cities do have local seafood dishes as a local specialty. So, for example, in Hiroshima, they're really famous for their oysters. So, and then there's like places that are famous for eel and other seafood dishes. So, if you are a seafood lover and you are going around Japan, then try and find out what the local specialty dish is and try it, because yeah, you'll probably be really delighted with what they offer. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not a big seafood fan, so that's not for me. But anyone that does love fish, then you'll be set basically. Okay, next question. I want to visit and participate at karate dojos. Okay, great. Well, Japan is like the birthplace of karate, so you'll be fine. You'll have lots of places where you can try this. So I did find a few online that I can recommend to you, but like a lot of the online booking websites that sell like tours and experiences and excursions. So, like voyaging, Klook, Airbnb experiences. You can book some kind of karate experience on there. And then there are loads of other Japanese martial arts that you can try as well if you're interested. So, like Aikido, Kendo, Kudo. Kudo is the Japanese archery, which I really want to try actually. So, I found a couple of things you can do. And there's some links here as well, so you can copy and paste these if you want to. So yeah, so I found this one karate experience, which is 2,000 yen per person, so fairly affordable. And you can do see a live demonstration, and you can do some karate practice as well, and learn some techniques. And then the other one I found, which I thought looked quite cool, yeah, so it's the Kudo, it's the Japanese archery. So this is a little bit more of an unusual activity to find that for tourists to try. Usually, like, you'd have to join some kind of Kudo club, and you normally have to live in Japan to do this kind of activity. So there is this place in Hiroshima where it's basically for tourists, and you can just kind of show up and they'll teach you how to use the bow and arrow and stuff. So this is like the archery that the samurai used to do. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, so you can try that out if you go to Hiroshima too. Do you have any trips to traveling to Tokyo on a budget? Yes, I have lots of tips because I used to live in Tokyo and it's not the cheapest place to live. So yeah, so I learned how to, and I also lived there as a student for a while when I was going to Japanese language school. So I was definitely on a budget then. So yeah, let me share my knowledge with you. So if you're looking to save money on accommodation, there's lots of ways you can do that. So you can stay in hostels, you can stay in capsule hotels, and you can also stay in manga cafes, which will bring your costs right down. Hostels in Japan are generally really good quality, and so are the capsule hotels. So they're very affordable and a great way to save money without paying for expensive hotels and things. I found that Airbnb in Tokyo is actually really expensive, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. But perhaps in like more rural locations, Airbnb could be an option. And then for eating, I have a few tips. So I would say try and stay away from touristy restaurants, and go and eat where local people eat. So a lot of the kind of most affordable places are a lot of Japanese chain restaurants, and just because they're chains doesn't mean that they're not good. It just means that they're really affordable. So a few of my favourite places to eat and drink. So there's a chain of bars called The Hub, which they have throughout Tokyo, and they have a couple in other cities as well. But basically from 5 to 7 every day, they have a really, really good happy hour, and you can get drinks and cocktails for like less than 300 yen, so very, very affordable. Another one of my favourite places to eat is a chain of restaurants called Torikizoku, and they specialise in chicken and yakitori, so grilled chicken skewers, and it's so delicious and so cheap. So that's a really good place to eat as well, and they have them all over Tokyo. They have hundreds of restaurants. And then one of my other favourite places to eat is an izakaya chain called Hanbei. And these ones are really popular with Japanese university students because the prices again are so cheap, and they have a huge menu, and it's mostly like Japanese bar food, but you can get everything on there. You can get some seafood, you can get okonomiyaki, you can get chicken skewers, you can get like salads, vegetables, and the drinks are very affordable as well. So they have a few of those around Tokyo. My favourite one so far is in Takada no Baba because it's less busy. But they also have them around Shibuya, Shinjuku. They have one in Ueno as well, I think. So that's another top tip from me. And then there's also my favourite pizza place. If you're in Tokyo and you're craving a bit of Western food after a while, then there's this amazing pizza restaurant in Nakano, where they sell really great tasting huge pizzas for 500 yen. So that's around $4.50 in US dollars. So yeah, I would recommend that as well. So yeah, so just to summarize, so the Hub is the bar chain that I mentioned. They have really great affordable drink selection. They also have like a good selection of bar snacks as well. So they do like mini fish and chips and things. And they're very, very foreigner friendly, and they have an English menu, so no need to worry about language problems there. Tori Kazoku is the chicken yakitori chain that I mentioned. So yeah, again, it's super cheap. Most of the items on the menu are less than 300 yen, so you can just order loads of different little plates of things and try whatever you like. It's really, really popular with people after work, so you'll find lots of like groups of like office workers and things going for dinner. So I would recommend to go earlier in the evening so you don't have to wait a long time. And they've got a really easy ordering system as well. You can just order via the iPad and it's in English, and again, yeah, it's really, really delicious. Hanbei, which is the izakaya chain that I mentioned. So again, they have an English menu available, so no need to worry about any language issues there. Huge range of items, and it's very, very cheap. So, oh yes, and for ladies, we also are entitled to a free dessert, which is like some little ice cream, I think. Yeah. And then finally, my favourite pizza restaurant. So this one's like a real hidden gem. It's in Nakano, which is fairly central Tokyo, and it's down this little side street near the station. And basically, if you didn't know about it, you would never find it. So I'm sharing a top secret with you here. So you can see the address, and it's 500 yen pizza from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. daily, and the drinks are 300 yen during happy hour as well, and they have lots of beer and wine you can choose. So I would recommend getting there. If you're going for dinner, then it's better to go early. Try and get there for around 5 o'clock and go for an early dinner, otherwise you won't get a seat because it's super popular. Okay, so next question. I would like to know some good Japanese potters, ceramicists to visit. Okay, so there are a few things you can try. So I've just listed some links here for you where they do ceramic and pottery experiences. I think the one in Kyoto is quite popular, and obviously it's in a big touristy area, so that seems like a good one to do if you're going to Kyoto. I have done Japanese pottery before. So the main thing you want to do is obviously you want to find somewhere because it takes a while for the pottery to set. So you want to find somewhere that's going to be able to deliver it to you after you've done the experience. So I think the one in Kyoto is good because they will post it out to you in your home country afterwards. So that one may be an option. Okay, next question. Could you recommend ryokans that are in a more rural setting in and around nature? We are looking for something similar in style to this ryokan, but didn't want to repeat the same experience. Okay, so yeah, I have a few recommendations for ryokan. Well, areas that are nice to stay, where you could stay in a ryokan that are kind of very rural and just have lots of beautiful views and countryside around. So one option would be to go to Nikko. So this is north of Tokyo, and it's around 2 hours on the train, and they have lots of nice sights you can see, lots of temples, there's a big waterfall, lots of shrines and things. So you could have quite a nice trip there and stay a couple of days. And then also Hakone is a good option. There's so many ryokans to choose from, and it's obviously near Mount Fuji, so really lovely views. But yeah, because there's so many ryokan, you're more likely to find a good deal because they're all in competition. So a couple that I found. So this one is in Nikko. It's called Tokanzo. So you can see it's quite a traditional style ryokan with a tatami floor, and you've got some outdoor baths there as well you can use. And then I found one in Hakone called Ajisai Ryokan. So ajusai is Japanese for hydrangea flowers. So I'm guessing that they have lots of hydrangeas around there during rainy season, which is June. But this one again, you can see the kind of decor is quite traditional with the tatami room. So you would sleep on futons on the floor. And they also have private baths available to hire. And it's got really high ratings on booking.com, which is good. So lots of good reviews, and it's near quite a lot of attractions. So you're near the open air museum and botanical gardens. So the rates for that one are from around 17,000 yen per night. And then I thought I'd include some recommendations of best ryokan according to Japanese travellers, so not foreigners. Because that might give you kind of a different perspective on some like hidden gems. So I did some research for like best ryokan according to Japanese travelers, and there's this one, Hoshigaoka Sanso, which is in Gunma Prefecture. So it's in this area which is described as one of the most beautiful villages in Japan. The prices are from 8,000 yen per person per night, so that's quite affordable. There's no English on their website, so the best place to book them would be via a booking website like Agoda or booking.com. But yeah, you can see some pictures here. Again, looks very lovely and rural and very peaceful setting. And then the final place that I wanted to talk to you about for ryokan is a little bit off the beaten track, but it's really, really worth the effort to go there if you have the time. It's one of my favourite places in Japan. It's on the island of Shikoku, which is Japan's 4th largest island. So I actually lived on this island for 2 years, so I know it really well. And there's this area in the middle called Iya Valley, and it's a really beautiful scenic area, and the scenery is just absolutely stunning, very, very spectacular. And when you go there, you feel like you've gone back in time hundreds of years. It's just like it's been completely untouched by time. It's really beautiful. But they have loads of activities you can do in the area. So one of the most fun things to do is whitewater rafting, which I've done 3 or 4 times there. It's really, really fun. You can do a half day or a full day. They also have these famous vine bridges. So they look like something out of like an Indiana Jones movie. They're these huge bridges which are made completely from vines. And they still have those you can see. And also you've got lots of mountain hiking and things you can do. So this ryokan that I found is called Iya Bijin ryokan, and the prices start from around 18,000 yen per person. So you can see some pictures here of what Iya Valley looks like. So yeah, it's very, very stunning. I would highly recommend going here. And not many foreign tourists will go to this kind of place because it's just too off the beaten path for them. But you can get here by train, so it is perfectly accessible if you don't want to hire a car. Yeah, and you can see one of the vine bridges in the bottom right hand corner. So they're pretty cool as well. So just a few tips on where you can find ryokan if you do want to stay in one. So if you're looking for like a luxurious style of ryokan, then you can check out the Hoshino and Auberge chains for modern high-end options. Japan I Can is a good website. I've booked accommodation through there before. I also booked a stay in a Buddhist temple on Mount Koya. I booked through that website, so they're very trustworthy. Booking.com and Agoda also really good. There's also a website called JLAN, which is good as well, and you can also book ryokan through the JNTO website, which is the Japan Tourism Board. So I just recommend checking those out if you are interested in staying in a ryokan. Okay, so that's about all from me for this month. If you do have any other questions, then please feel free to email them through to me, and I can answer them in the next session. But before we go, I just wanted to mention that I do offer Japan travel planning services as well. So if you are feeling totally overwhelmed about planning your itinerary, then I can help with that. So I can create a completely personalized itinerary for you with with suggestions for accommodation, restaurant, activities based on what your preferences are. We would have like a call together first so I can kind of get to know you, find out what you like, and then I can make you an itinerary based on what you like. And I can basically make this itinerary for you for any date. So even if you haven't decided your dates yet, then I can make the itinerary and you can just use it whenever you decide to go traveling. Yeah, so it would start with a survey, which you would fill out, and then a Skype call. And then once I know everything about you and how you like to travel, I can make the itinerary. And it will save you a lot of time researching, basically. And you can feel assured that you'll be getting the best trip you paid for, because I will put all of my local expert knowledge into making it the best possible itinerary for you. But of course, if you want to make it yourself, which is also part of the fun of traveling, then you can also check out my website, ryokogirl.com, where I have lots of free information and itineraries and advice on things to do and places to go. Yeah, so thanks for joining, guys, and hopefully I will see you soon.